President Trump holding a blockbuster first cabinet meeting of his second term as he once again proves that he is the most transparent president in history. A new analysis shows 47 is absolutely smoking his predecessors when it comes to talking to the media. In just his first month, Trump took a staggering 1,000 questions compared to Sleepy Joe's sad, measly 140. And that number was before today's hour-long juggernaut session where he answered more than 30 additional questions. The president convening the heads of his executive departments and bringing along his DOGE tech support, Elon Musk.
We have a mandate to do this, and this is part of the reason I got elected.
It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I mean, I'm like, stack them up, you know. But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. We bring the receipts. So people say, like, well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. We line item by line item, we specify each item. So, and I should say, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly.
This country has gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run.
Musk also defending his now infamous DOGE name 5 things you did emails.
That email perhaps was best interpreted as a performance review, but actually it was a pulse check review. Do you have a pulse? Do you have a pulse and 2 neurons? So if you have a pulse and 2 neurons, you can reply to an email.
Those million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble. You know, I wouldn't say that we're thrilled about it. You know, they haven't responded. Now, maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're paying people that don't exist. Maybe they're not around. Maybe they have other jobs.
Meanwhile, critics of DOGE are getting even more bizarre. The media is now fear-mongering about how DOGE cuts could lead people to be eaten by bears. And liberal Daily Show host Jon Stewart got so worked up, he drew blood.
You want some information about the forest, maybe a good place to camp or trail to hike on, or maybe you're scared about bears, you come to a place like this, your local ranger station. But because of the recent firings, this one won't be open anytime soon.
It would be embarrassing if it was a small drop in the bucket and that the American people didn't expect that we should negotiate for all their f***ing drugs because we've already paid for it with our subsidies. Come on! I'll be going to the hospitals.
Okay, you know, Dana, I'll start with you since you were press secretary.
Yes.
Over 1,000, I think, and 39 now questions answered. And what I thought was most interesting, and I'm curious as to what you thought, bringing in Elon Musk into this first cabinet meeting, the earliest apparently in decades, to literally answer questions, not just to the cabinet, but to the American people.
Yeah, I mean, one, I love cabinet meetings. I used to complain a lot that Biden never had any. Then I realized why he didn't have any, because then towards the end of his administration, we found out that if he wanted to talk to the Secretary of Treasury about inflation, he had to have a scripted talking points. So you really can't do that in front of the cameras. Right. Depending on what issue is happening, you might have somebody in the cabinet or a staff member or somebody, an expert, perhaps somebody from the CIA, in this case, tech support, Elon Musk, be able to answer questions to anybody in the cabinet or present, make sure that everybody is singing from the same song sheet. And that's what a cabinet meeting really is to air ideas, grievances, problems, get on the same page. This is their first one. A team meeting is not a bad thing, but the thing that President Trump does is he invites everyone to see it as well. So they might have had additional meetings behind the scenes because there are some things you might not say in front of the press. I don't understand what's happening with the curtains in the cabinet room. That really kind of threw me off because it's such a pretty room. Maybe the lighting was bad and it was really sunny today in D.C. or something like that. But the fact that the president has answered 1,039 questions, which by the time I say these words, it might be 1,050, just shows you how different the previous administration was. They didn't talk to you about anything. And actually, if you go back and watch Karine Jean-Pierre's briefings, she actually never really answered a question. She would always say, I can't comment on that. I've already been very clear. We're not going to talk about that. That's an insulting question. Like, never answering a question. That's not what you're getting here. They might not like the answers, but at least they're getting to ask the questions.
You know, Jesse, I thought it was fascinating when the president started talking about Zelensky and the mineral deal. And when he talked about the fact that $300 billion that we gave to Ukraine and Zelensky, whereas Europe only gave $100 billion. But the money that Europe gave to Ukraine, they gave as a loan, which meant Ukraine had to pay him back. The money, the $300 billion that Biden gave was not a loan. He just gave him the money like a fool. And now what we've got is a president who says, we're going to get our money back. And from now on, we're not going to be footing the bill for a country that is paying other people back, but not us.
Yeah, we're ending wars and we're getting hostages and cash back. That's
And
a
minerals.
first. And you remember, he said during the Iraq war, we should have cut a deal to get some oil. And that's something that really helped him during the Republican primary when he ran in 2016. I think a lot of Americans agree that with this economy the way it is, you need a little something, something on the back end. You know, Joe Biden, his cabinet meetings, Jill ran them.
Right.
And people are upset that Musk is in this meeting. Dr. Jill was heading up cabinet meetings. He didn't have a cabinet meeting for a year. And like Dana said, it wasn't a cabinet meeting. It was a movie shoot. You were getting questions ahead of time. The president's going to call on you at 21 minutes into the meeting. What are you going to say? It was pretty bad. Now, I'm grateful if I was one of these cabinet secretaries that Musk is in there, because it's like good cop, bad cop. He's doing all the firing. He's doing all the spending cuts. He's like the bad guy. You don't have to do anything. You know, like, I wanted to keep you around, but Musk said you had to go. I'm sorry. And it works. And he doesn't mind taking the slings and arrows, and that's good. Somebody has to. Smashing mugs for attention, even Greg doesn't go that far.
He's daring me.
The Bears.
Yeah. Would you smash that one in particular?
I could not do that to my poop mug.
Yeah. The Bears.
The Bears. So when you go camping in a national park, Judge, the first thing you do is you go to the park ranger and ask, should I feed the bears? No. I did a little research on bear attacks and fatalities in North America. During the pandemic, we shut down the national parks and we didn't have a single park ranger. You know how many people died from bear attacks that year when there were 0 park rangers? 1 American. When we rehired all of the park rangers the next year, 4,000 park rangers. You know how many bear attacks? 1. The amount of park rangers has nothing to do with how many people's lives they save from bear attacks. It is ridiculous.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Greg, what do you want to say about the Bears?
I am pro-bear. There's a nice little bar downtown. I'll get to take you guys there. I'm done with the transparency. You know, he can retire that jersey. He won it. There's no going back. It's now about spontaneity. And you brought it up. In order for the Democrats to succeed, they needed a script. They have to film the movie. But what you're seeing right now is an environment where you really can't lie. You could say maybe this or maybe that, shoot the bull. We could probably do this. Maybe we'll do that. I don't know. But as for a cover-up or a fraud, that's impossible to do. You cannot lie on the fly. Believe me, I've tried. But you know, I noticed that a change in political the change in political action mirrors the change in the internet when it comes to information. It's so much faster. You can't control anything. You can't keep up. And it made me realize that Joe Biden really was dial-up. You know, he was slow, agonizing, undependable, prone to failure. Makes a funny noise when you turn it on. That was Biden. Trump is basically we now have high-speed fiber internet. And we're like, oh, how? Slow this thing down. As for the critics, this freak out reminds me of another area where we moved from non-transparency to transparency, our voting system. The reaction was hysterical and hyperbolic, and it was all about one thing, voter ID. And it made you wonder, like, what are they trying to hide? The meltdown over voter ID, what are they actually trying to hide? Because when you think about it now, we're back in this era of common sense. How absurd was it that they were making an argument against voter ID? Yeah. The media and the Democrats couldn't find one voter who didn't have an ID. So you'd ask them, do you have evidence that this is like discriminatory? And they could not find it. It didn't exist. So now we're in this world where we are picking out absurdities and destroying them. Men and women's sports, a porous border. We got to go after the voting system. We got to fix this stuff. We got to put voter ID in because we were bamboozled with load-bearing phrases like racism or discrimination. It was all just folly, just like this, DOGE.
You know, you have to admit, Harold, that it was incredible watching the president in this first cabinet meeting, and everyone was there. Elon was there to say what he was doing, to answer questions, the cabinet member, the agency heads. I mean, the transparency is really stunning compared to what we have seen. And Trump said, I'm accountable. Buck stops with me.
I think that the country, I listened to our network earlier, and it was, I think maybe Ari Fleischer was on and was saying that you have to admire the fact that the president's come before the country and his cabinet's coming before the country. We had a little of this during the Biden era, but not enough. But look, I'm done with Joe Biden, and I hope somewhere right around the table, I hope everybody can be done with him after a while. We now have a new president who not only has answered a lot of questions, he does 2 press conferences a day. So that kind of transparency and access, I think people have to be excited about. And I think we understand the excitement in the air because of what we saw today. Even Elon Musk being there, I still wish he'd put a shirt and tie on, not wear a T-shirt, but him being there and answering questions. It was quite obvious to me also that some of the cabinet members weren't altogether too crazy about him, but that's another conversation. I think at the end of the day,
you could tell by looking at them?
Well, there was a time, I watched the whole thing. The president made a little comment in that you could tell from some of the reaction. But look, Elon being there and answering the questions, something you didn't see over the last 4 years. I don't disagree with your proposition. But here's where I think we have to be candid also. This is the first month or two. I mean, it's amazing. It feels like it's been 8 months. It's been less than 2 months. And President Trump last night enjoyed a great victory in the House. The Congress passed the blueprint for the budget. One of the challenges with that is that that budget blueprint they passed did not have encapsulated in it consideration for the no taxes on tips or overtime, which I know the president campaigned on and which I support, and I hope he's able to get. 2, the president's talk on tariffs, whether we like it or not, has unsettled things in terms of prices not going down. If we are having this conversation, and we will be about President Trump, in 6 months from now, and prices are not going down, I would remind that today, the Department of Agriculture, the president's own Department of Agriculture, suggested that prices on eggs would go up somewhere between 30 to 40% this year alone. That ground beef and sirloin prices would go up 10%. The prices on cars and washing machine and dryers, that wasn't from ag, but from another agency, that they would go up. So I hope they don't. And I hope that the president understands, and today is a good indication. He's coming before the country. I hope he continues to come before us. And I hope he continues to answer questions about how do you lower these prices? Because at the end of the day, Judge, that's why he won. Working class people said, we don't believe Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have a plan. We believe that Donald Trump does. And that will be the test.
Or we just don't believe Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, period. Thank you for that, Harold.
That might be true, but they elected Donald Trump, so at some point, he's going to have to answer these questions.
Well, I think he's doing a great job so far. Up next, greasy goes the Joe Rogan route. Gavin Newsom is launching a podcast.